Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 572 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous: Unleashing and Promoting Strength, Self-Worth, and Real Sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, I have done hundreds of interviews with recent college graduates who are looking for work at the companies that I represent. There are so many do's and don'ts about these interviews, but I will stress that you also need to look professional in terms of your appearance for these interviews. We seem to have lost that requirement after the pandemic. I don't know what happened, but I will tell you that the hiring manager will be looking at the way that you dress to see if that fits into their corporate culture. So make sure that you understand what that corporate culture is. Let's talk a little bit more about the do's and don'ts on interviewing with our next guests. Barbara Limmer, she is a professional career coach and consultant who has personally coached thousands of professionals and executives from around the world. She brings extensive experience working in all sides of the hiring process, including career management, human resources, and executive search. She previously worked with MBA students and alumni as a management director at Thunderbird School of Global Management and in a variety of human resources roles focused on recruiting, training, and employee relations for companies, including Bank of America and MetLife. She also worked as a headhunter in New York City while attending grad school. In all of her positions, she continually conducted either real job interviews or mock interviews, providing real-time, detailed, and in-depth feedback on what could be improved in their answers. Laura Browne, she actually has been prior on our show, so you're going to recognize her already. She's got extensive experience in leadership and management development. She was a senior director of human resources for a global tech company where she taught managers how to be better interviewers. She is a speaker, trainer, and coach who helps global leaders and individuals be more successful. At Career Coffee Break, that's careercoffeebreak.com, she shows clients how to get promoted and make money at work by negotiating raises and higher starting salaries at new jobs. Laura is the author of 3 business books and 2 fiction books, including Help My Company Swipe Left, Increase Your Income, 7 Rules for Women Who Want to Make More Money at Work, and A Salary Cinderella Story, or How to Make Money Without a Fairy Godmother. Lauren has written for Forbes and has been quoted as a business expert in major publications, including Cosmopolitan, Family Circle Magazine, and USA Weekend. Here's a special gift for our listeners today. You can get 45% off a discount code for the book. It's called Interview Speak. There's no expiration date on this, and the code is FFLIMMER. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes. So make sure that you get that discount code for 45% off Interview Speak. And that link will be in the show notes. Welcome to the show, Barbara and Laura.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having us.
Yes, it is a pleasure to have you both. I'm wondering what inspired you to write Interview Speak, and how is that different from all of the other career advice books that are out there?
Thank you, Michael. Yes, as you said, my career encompassed both human resources and recruiting and career coaching. And I've come to learn that most people leave job interviews thinking they did well. And of course, that's not always the case. And as you mentioned, I've done thousands of real and mock interviews. And for years, I've had this understanding that every interview question has a question behind the question. In fact, many times as I was coaching someone, they actually wouldn't really answer my question. And then when I told them the real question behind the question, a light bulb would go off and they'd say, oh, okay, well, now that I know that, here's the way I'd answer it. And they'd hit it out of the park. So again, for years, I had this idea that we need a book out there to translate interview speak for people so that they could do better in their interviews. And that's how the book was born. And our book is really different, not only because we show the translation of each question, but how to answer it And we include examples of real answers with critiques of here's what the person did well, and here's what they could do to improve their answer.
Yeah, you're really filling an important need, I think, out there, especially for recent college grads that just don't have a lot of experience going through interviews. So I'm so
Yeah.
happy that this book is out there. Everybody should go out there and get it. It's called Interview Speak. I'm also wondering, Laura, you have a huge background in HR, executive coaching, leadership development. How did that inform the structure and the
Mhm.
content of this book?
Yeah, well, thank you. And so, as you mentioned, I've been in a tech company for years. Actually, I've been in several tech companies in senior leadership positions. I taught people. And what I really wanted to do is share sort of from behind the desk. So, share the secrets that I have seen. As like Barbara said, a lot of people, have think that they have great interviews, and I'll be talking to the manager after and say, oh, that was terrible. They did this, this, and this. Oh, I would never hire them. And I want people to know that. I want people to know the insider information. So when Barbara and I started talking about this a couple of years ago, we started sharing some stories thinking it would be so great if people knew what we knew. So that's why we wrote the book.
Yeah, really nice stuff. Many of the students who are listening right now, they are either current students or maybe recent college graduates, and we know that they have limited experience. I'm wondering how can they stand out in these interviews when they really don't have, a big resume right now?
Well, I would encourage them to redefine the word experience.
Hmm.
They do have experience. It may not be paid, it may not be full-time work experience, but they do have experience working on projects in teams, in classes, doing research, solving problems, communicating with a variety of people. So these are all skills needed in jobs out there. In fact, when I was a senior in college, I met with a career advisor and I was applying for a job in that career center, and he helped me go through my classes and uncover what skills did I build in those classes. And then I put those skills right there in the resume. And then I got the job. And that was how I started in career advising. So I would encourage students to really analyze what skills did they build in these classes, and also current students take the time to meet with the Career Center. A lot of people don't do that, and then they graduate, and then they feel bad about meeting with the Career Center. Take advantage of that resource while you're there. And by the way, those of you who have already graduated, it's never too late. You can still meet with these experts who can do exactly what I did in helping to uncover what are the skills I really used. And um, it's very important to get some part-time work experience, internships, volunteer experience, so that you build some of those skills that you can talk about and stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the Career Center. I mean, your tuition is paying for that or has paid for that in the past. So you might as well use that benefit. It's so critical. And that's what these people are there to do, to look at your classes and figure out what skills you developed. But also, don't forget about those extracurriculars. Many of you are in fraternities and sororities. There's certainly a lot of leadership skills, there's motivation skills, there's public speaking skills. There's teamwork that's involved there. There's so many things that you can pull from there, but sometimes you have to translate that for whoever is running the interview. That person might not be a fraternity or sorority member, so they might not really understand, what that means to be sergeant at arms. Like,
Right.
if you're not in a fraternity or sorority, you probably don't know what that term means. So you really have to translate that for the interviewer to make them understand what it is that you did. And I want you to use data. Give me numbers that show me how you move the needle. Don't tell me that you are treasurer of your organization. That means nothing. You could be the worst treasurer in the history of the organization. I want you to tell me that you reduced expenses by 30%, or
Mhm.
you increase collection rates by 45%. These are numbers and data that shows me how you move the needle and ultimately how you're going to help my company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, one of the things I love what you said, that you need to make it clear. So I always say what's obvious to you. I mean, maybe it's obvious, well, I was treasurer and it meant I did this, this, and this. Well, it's not obvious to the interviewer. So go ahead and say that and explain again the difference that you made, and then you can connect it to the difference you will make in this next job.
Bingo. Absolutely right. Is there one interview question that typically will trip up early career professionals, and how should they be answering it?
Well, let me mention one that trips up a lot of professionals. And we actually have a whole chapter on common interview questions, but this to me is one of the tougher ones. It's tell me about yourself.
Hmm.
And the one of the reasons it's tough is this is how most interviewers start because they want to give you a chance to talk a little bit. They want to get to know you. They also want to see if there are some red flags. Like if you keep talking and talking and talking and you just talk about yourself for 10 minutes, you're not going to get the job. So what this does is it gives you an opportunity, first of all, to build rapport and to focus attention on the aspects that you're interested in that connect to this job. Because here's the translation. When they're saying, tell me about yourself, what they want to know is, should I hire you? Are you going to be the kind of person that we want to work with, that we want to, have stay here? When I put you, if I send you to the next stage, is the manager I send you to going to say, why did you send this person? Or are they going to say, wow, this person is great? So what you want to do is make a short answer, 30 to 60 seconds. Most people don't realize it needs to be short. Thank them for the time. And then if there is a way to connect with them, so you should check them on LinkedIn. And so, if you see that they live in New York and you say, oh, I see you live in New York. I lived in New York. It's great to meet you. So if you can make a short connection, go ahead and do that. Then what you want to do is take a couple of key skills that relate to the position and say some of the top skills I have are this, this, and this, and then describe one or two accomplishments and say, I'm really proud of doing this and this, but connect it to the job. And then wrap it all up by saying why you're so interested in the company and in this specific position. And so in a minute, you're basically telling the potential employer that, hey, I really want to be here and you really want to move me in the interview process.
Wow, fantastic. I love those personal connections. That starts with research. You got to look this person up on LinkedIn, maybe check out their social media accounts to figure out what connections you have. But that takes preparation. You can't just walk into the interview and expect that you're suddenly going to know that they're from New York. Maybe they're not from New York. Maybe they're from another state. So, it takes a little bit of work and preparation, which I think is really, really critical to do up front. Now, you also emphasize anticipating some of those questions from the job description itself. So, how can the college students listening use a job posting in order to prepare, to be smarter, and to work smarter, not harder?
That's a great question. There's basically two roadmaps that you can use to prepare. First, of course, is your resume, and you've got to go through it and know it backwards and forwards and be able to talk about anything on there, which I know sounds obvious, but you'd be amazed how many people don't look at, can't really describe the things on their resume. Then the job description is the other roadmap, which is typically in the job posting. And we actually show in the book how to do what we call a job deconstruction. And that is looking at every word on there and pretending it's a question. And that question is, what experience have you had in this? Give an example of this. And by the way, I'm talking about the entire job posting, not just the qualifications section. So the more you think through in advance, how would I talk about this if it comes up, the less likely it is that you'll be surprised by an interview question.
Really good stuff. I like that. Now, Laura, you mentioned that tell me about yourself question, and that's kind of that intro question that so typically we will hear time and time again, right? So, what are the different types of interview questions that the students should know about, and how should they be preparing for each type of question?
Actually, Barbara, I'm going to ask you to answer that one.
Go for it.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, a very common type of interview question is what's known as behavioral interview questions or competency-based questions. And you know it's that kind of question when it starts with something like, tell me about a time when you did this, or give me an example of a time when you did that. And those questions are asking for real examples. By the way, one of the biggest mistakes people make when asked those questions is convert them to a general answer. Well, here's what I typically do. Know that if the employer is asking for an example, you must have an example ready.
Mhm.
Another kind of question that is common is hypothetical. How would you handle this kind of situation? And guess what? You should answer it in the same way. You can convert that instead of saying, rather than talk about how I would handle that, let me give you an actual example. Because real life examples with real actions and real results that you've taken have so much more impact than how you hypothetically would handle a situation.
Mm.
A third type of interview question is what I call general. So instead of it being, how would you handle this? It's how do you handle this? And again, let all the other candidates talk about how they typically would handle this. Instead, give a real life example. So, how do you typically handle this? I have actually just handled that about a month ago. Let me walk you through that. So, it's okay to convert. And my message is rather than give a hypothetical or general answer, have real live examples ready. And again, if you've done that job description deconstruction that we just talked about, you'll have your stories ready.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, Barbara. Really well done. And I would suggest to everybody listening, have those success stories ready to go. Think about your classes, think about the work that you've done, think about your extracurriculars. Where are those success stories where you've had a pivotal impact on the organization or on that class or a special project that turned out really well? Just think about those success stories. So maybe you have three or four or five success stories, and then based on the question that they ask, you can slide that in to whatever it is that they're asking. I mean, but it
Mhm.
takes a little bit of preparation. You got to write them down and just really memorize those three, four, five success stories. So that way you know exactly you got that recall and you can immediately plug that into whatever question they ask.
Yeah.
So that's really, really good. Now, earlier I was talking a little bit about attire. I know that I hear that from hiring managers recently over the past couple of years a lot, that the attire is just not appropriate, especially for Gen Z. So, I want to talk about that, but I also think even body language that also plays a role. So, and even that could be in virtual ones, like in the meeting that we're having right now. So, can you share maybe some do's and don'ts for Gen Z as it relates to body language and attire?
Oh yeah, let me take that one because I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah.
Yes, because I have had plenty of managers complain to me about the fact that somebody was wearing a hoodie
Right.
or somebody was wearing a t-shirt. And it seems silly, especially if the job maybe is casual, but managers want to know you're serious or interviewers want to know you're serious. And unless you dress the part, you don't seem serious. So certainly the way you look is really important. And I always say, dress better than you think you need to, especially, it's certainly in person, but as you said, now most interviews, especially the beginnings, are virtual. So let me talk about that. Now coming back to the body language.
Mm.
So it's really important to be very aware of how it looks. So I have a very plain background right now, and that's what you need. Because a lot of times I work with people that say, don't worry about, my background, I blur it, or I have, a background. But the problem is that a lot of times you don't know, what software they're using or what they're using. And so you might get on a call and it doesn't allow you to blur. And suddenly you've got some stuff behind you that you don't want them to see. So make sure that you're prepared for that. And even something simple like you don't want a mirror behind you, you don't want a flashy poster, you don't want a fan above you that's swirling because that will be distracting. So you want to make sure that you have a distraction-free environment. And then when we talk about body language, you want to show up in a way that looks positive and looks inviting and looks that you're interested. So you want to make sure, again, you're sitting straight up, you're looking straight ahead at the camera when you're answering, or you can look down at the person. You don't want to be looking down. Now, a lot of people say, but wait, but my notes are here. So I always tell them, paste your notes on the wall behind so you can look at your notes and it looks like you're looking at the person. In addition, pay attention to what your hands are doing. If you're one of those people that like moves your hands around or picks at your fingernails or whatever, just put your hands down because you don't want to look nervous. And again, keep your head straight. You don't want to do this. I was on a meeting one time with somebody that did this. And it looks like you're laughing. It looks like you're not interested. Now, that person might be very interested, but you need to sit up straight, look straight ahead, give the impression, I'm super excited about this, and I would be great to work with. So those are some of the key tips that I talk about.
I love it. Very helpful, Laura. I appreciate that. And what's really great about this book, again, it's called Interview Speak. You include full interview transcripts in the book, including some clueless responses. So I'm wondering, what is one cringe-worthy example of a clueless response, and how would you go about fixing it?
There's so many, but I know we have limited time, so I chose one. This one is near and dear to my heart. It's the ever popular weakness question,
Oh, yes.
which, by the way, can be asked in a variety of ways. A lot of employers have gotten away from using the word weakness. So they'll say, what's something you want to improve about yourself?
Right.
So, but anytime you have to talk about that, well, I'll tell you in a moment how to answer it, but the clueless responses are, oh, I'm a perfectionist. We've all heard that before. Here's a famous one. I give every effort 110%, and I get really frustrated when other people don't work as hard as me.
Mhm.
That's another answer you should never give. More recently, I've heard people say, well, work-life balance is a weakness of mine. And I hear that as, oh, great. You mean in your last job or experience, you worked your tail off, but now that I'm considering hiring you, you're not going to work as hard? What's that about? So that's how not to answer it. How should you answer it? Well, a common theme in our book is we want people to be honest and candid and authentic, balancing confidence with humility. So don't pretend that you're perfect because then we'll know you're lying. So how do you answer it? You have two choices. Number one, you can go back in time and identify something that maybe didn't come as easily to you, or you were given constructive criticism on, you had to work extra hard on, and talk about that and include what you've done to improve. So you're essentially saying that's really not an issue anymore because you're so conscious of it. So one option, again, go back in time. Another option is to take a strength and think about under what circumstances could that strength really be a weakness.
Yeah.
And again, the way you talk about it is, I'm really proud of this, but I recognize under these circumstances, it could be a weakness, and here's why. And here's what I do to compensate for that tendency. So again, you're selling the fact that you know this about yourself. And it goes back to that you're confident enough to admit you're not perfect, and you're humble enough to admit you're not perfect.
Really nice. I love it. Earlier you were talking a little bit about what the question is really trying to get at in terms of these interview questions. So, how does your book help the readers recognize what the recruiters and the hiring managers are really trying to figure out about you?
Yeah, so let me answer that one. So we really think of this as a translation
Hmm.
book, and so it's really about translating the question. And one of the things we also talk about is really pay attention and hear the question, because one of the mistakes people make is they hear part of the question and they start making up the answer and then they jump in. And so we say, no, listen to the whole question, pause for a moment. It's okay to pause instead of just jumping in with something maybe you're not sure, and then answer the question. And so again, we try to think about what's going on in the interviewer's mind. So for example, okay, the question, like, why are you interested in this job? That seems like a really simple one. But what the interviewer is thinking is, I know you want a job, which is why you're here, but why do you want this job? Convince me that you're not going to quit in 6 months because I don't want to have to, get another person here. So convince me you want this job. So the translation is, tell me why you want this. And so once you realize, I really need to focus on this particular job and how I would love it and why I really want it and why I'm going to be successful, Then you can put together your answer. And I also want to go back to something you said about preparation.
Mm.
We keep saying, prepare, prepare, prepare. And we've had some people say, well, I don't want to prepare. I just want to be authentic. And as Barbara said, we want you to be authentic, but be prepared with authentic answers because it will reduce your stress and you'll have a way better, interview if you're actually prepared for it than you just want to go ahead and wing it.
Mm, wonderful. One other question that I think might be really helpful for the college students listening is what are the action steps that the college student should take after the interview concludes?
Well, two things. Number one, they've got to send a thank you. Now, it doesn't have to be a hard copy thank you note like in the old days. It can be a message on LinkedIn, it can be an email. But in that message, they need to first thank the person for their time. Secondly, reiterate their interest and excitement about that particular job, like what Laura was just saying. Reiterate why they feel they're the best candidate, and basically say I look forward to the next step in the interview process. So it doesn't have to be a big old thing, but it's very, very important. And it's amazing how many people do not do that. So that's one way to stand out. The second thing is to do some sort of self-reflection. And we include as an appendix in our book a post-interview self-evaluation to really think through what did I do well and I want to continue to do, and what could be better. How did my preparation help me succeed in this? And is there anything I want to do differently next time as part of my preparation? And then you got to move on. Think about your next interview. So don't agonize over any one, occurrence. Move on and continue having conversations with other people.
Mm. I'm so happy that you mentioned the thank you message. I think it's so critical. It could be a physical thank you, it could be something online. Either way works. But I will tell you that, when I go to the mailbox, it's usually negative things. It's usually bills that I find in the mailbox. And so when I do get a physical thank you note, and that's really, handwritten, it really does show that this person is going the extra mile. And I really like that. It's a positive thing. And it's nice to get a positive thing in the mail every now and then. But an email or a DM on LinkedIn or something like that, that also works. The key is that I want you to be really excited about this position. I want to hire somebody that can't wait to show up for day one of the work. And if all things are equal and one person sends a thank you message and says, I really think that I'm the right person for the job and I can't wait to get started, versus the other person that says no thank you letter or doesn't say anything reiterating the fact that they want this job, then guess what? I'm hiring the person that's excited about it. So
Yeah.
it's just very simple, and it's so critical. So I'm so thankful that you were here and you shared all this great information. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Really good. Now, I do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, and I'm wondering, where do you guys go for great food in Arizona? Because I have to go and visit sometime soon. My mom lives out in Prescott Valley, and so I know I'm going to be flying into town one of these days.
Well, I hope you're not going to be flying in the next couple of months because it's already over 100 degrees here. And yeah, but come in the fall, come in the spring, come in the winter. But yeah, there are plenty of great food places. Now, I'm going to suggest something before you come. So there's a Netflix special. The Netflix special is called Chef's Table Pizza. Okay, it was about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Episode 1 features a chef in Phoenix.
Nice.
So episode 1 of Chef's Table Pizza is Chris Bianco. And by the way, he is my cousin. And he has a couple of different places here and in LA. And Pizzeria Bianco has the best pizza. I know people are going to, disagree with me, but the pizza is amazing. It is like farm fresh, wonderful ingredients. And so I highly recommend coming to Pizzeria Bianco when you're here.
That sounds absolutely delicious. I do fly into Phoenix, so I'm going to be sure to come and check that out. You don't have to twist my arm very hard for me to go and
Sounds
have a
good.
good pizza. Like,
Mhm.
really? I mean, any day I will go for that, and I appreciate the recommendation. So that is fantastic. All right, so if our college students, if they want to go and buy the book or they want to
Mhm.
connect with you two for some more information,
Yeah.
where should they be going to get all of the stuff?
Great. Thank you so much. So the book, Interview Speak, What Your Interviewer Really Wants to Know, is available actually online right now. So if you have an interview tonight, you can get the book online, and then you can buy it online. And then also, with our wonderful discount, you can get it when a physical copy is available, which I think is going to be in July. So it's available now on Manning.com. You please use the discount for the 45% off. And if you want to connect with us, we would love that. So you can find us on LinkedIn, send us a message saying that you saw us here, and we will be happy to connect with you. So please go ahead and reach out to us, because we're here because we really want to help people to get their next job. Interviewing is stressful, it's hard, and we want to make it easier for you. So we just really appreciate being here and sharing the information, and we hope that you will use this to get your next best job.
Fantastic. I'm going to make sure that in the show notes, I'm going to include both of your LinkedIn accounts and your
Please.
profiles. So that way they can connect with you on LinkedIn. That is just a fantastic way to connect. And then, of course, the link to Manning.com with that 45% off discount code. It's FFLIMMER. And if you put in that discount code, you will get 45% off the book, which is just a no-brainer to me. Everybody listening needs a copy of the book. So thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you so much, Laura, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
inviting us. We appreciate that.
Of course,
It's
our
been
pleasure.
wonderful. Thanks.
You're very welcome. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Barbara and Laura, I want you to like this and I want you to share this on social media with other college students that are starting to go through this interview process and they really need to brush up on those interviewing skills. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.